Hi, Josias.
Hello.
Welcome from Germany, from Hamburg.
Yeah, that's right.
You're visiting for a month here in Hungary, researching the Budapest Jewish community, its past and its present. You've been here in the synagogue two times, three times, on a regular Shabbat, on Rosh Hashanah too. We also met at Rumbach during Slichot nights. Well, during this whole session, you were asking me, but still, what is your impression about the whole community? What are your feelings? You are 19 years old.
18.
80, still 18 years old. After high school, you are in this project with scholarship.
Yeah.
So tell us, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's very, very rich. I think the Jewish.
Honestly,
No, really, I honestly
be,
think that. I think it's very rich Jewish life, and which is good to see. Like the synagogues that I've been to see the people there, which is very important. I think.
You don't see that there are much more empty room and empty seats.
There is a lot of empty seats, but still, I'm happy for the people that are there. But I do see, or that's what I've got from conversations as well. There's topics which cause division, or especially between certain streams, and that is also like a case where some people say, oh, this is true, and the other say, no, this is true, and the other say, no, this is completely different. So that is true at the same time. But so with the people that I've met, that was just, very, very kind, very open, welcoming, which made my start here and my time here much easier. And it's also, I think, a good impression.
Yeah, how did you research the community? Only you collected oral histories and oral accounts, or you went into the library and researched there?
Well, so far I spoke to people, which is, I think, also the main.
Do you have any numbers? How many people you spoken with?
I don't know. I don't know it off the top of my head. I think it's usually because there's a difference between are we actually meeting for an interview, or are we meeting after Shabbat service and I'm just talking. I think there's a difference, but maybe quite a number. I tried to meet people from different.
But what do you want to achieve? What is your purpose? What is your goal?
Just the idea of this project is just to learn as much about.
Collecting information.
Yeah, just like if you just dive in and whatever you meet in terms of Jewish life, just learn about it, experience it.
You told me that this organization gave this money to other Jewish students as well, but they choose all kinds of projects and topics.
Yeah.
Really, very, very not related to this one. Why and how come that you choose Judaism, and you did choose Judaism here, east from your place, and not in Germany, not in Hamburg, or not in elsewhere, Berlin, Munich, other places?
Well, firstly, the question with why not in Germany, is that the idea of this scholarship is to go abroad and learn about something. So that was given, and well, why Judaism? Well, I think my family is, how do you say it? Always had a heart for Jewish life, or been interested in, been open for. Also for Israel. My parents went there when they were younger. We went there as a family a few years ago.
They were there in a kibbutz, or volunteering in a
No, for example, my mother worked in a hospital during her residency, or during her study. I don't know, I think it's Tel Aviv, or I don't know where. So they had been close to Israel, and then we as a family went there as well. It was, of course, very impressive to see. Even I was quite young, but still. And so, that was always just a topic. And so when I thought, okay, I have this chance, why not make it about that? And then I heard of the Johani synagogue, street synagogue, and
Dohani synagogue.
Yeah, I can't pronounce it.
In España, Dohani.
Dohani street synagogue.
It's written not with an N like this, but NY.
Dohani street synagogue, and that is so big, and also that of the there's varying numbers, but of the more than 100,000 Jewish people in Hungary, most of them live in Budapest. So that was seeing this great big community of Jews in Budapest. That was like, okay, I'm just going to go there.
When I gave you, or something somewhere around when I gave you these old German bilingual prayer books for Pesach from our old collection. As a present,
thank you, by the way.
You told me then, or a little bit later, that you did have a great grandfather who was Jewish.
Well, it was many like quite,
more than
quite a lot.
The 19th century, more than 19th century.
During the 19th century.
And that's why because he married a German woman. You didn't. Your family did that wing of your family didn't go under the Nuremberg laws.
Yeah,
right?
So they had like quite a
four generations
quite a lot of generations back
of
like Jews. They were just Jewish. But then at some point he married a German woman, or I think they just converted because
otherwise they couldn't. There was no civil marriage. Just all Christian original.
I'm not too sure whether he married a like non-Jewish girl and then that was the reason, or whether they just said, okay, we're just going to convert. I'm not too sure, but just during that time, that was like the most.
But you don't know the decade? Which decade?
No, I don't know. I can try to look it up.
You don't know anything about him, that part of your family. You don't have any information.
No, well, we did some research. That was like how we got
to it. The name and the place, which town he lived. Also from Hamburg?
I would need to. No, not from Hamburg, but I would need to ask my mother. I actually might after this talk, but I'm not too sure.
No, it's just because it's really. I mean, if it's the 19th century and you were born like 18 years ago, it must be it's fifth generation back at least.
Yeah.
If not sixth.
I think more sixth.
Is it exotic to have a relative like that in the past? Is it like give you a little buzz?
I think it's.
Or since when you're conscious of it?
Like 4 years ago.
So after all the Israel trips, you find that.
After that, my mother did some found old documents that she had, and because there was a picture on the wall, just a painting, and so we said okay, who was it done by and who's on there, and then she made some research in those old documents and found out that was actually the generation of where they converted. And so she did some research back then. I mean, there's some that's actually quite nice in Germany. Some websites where they tried to look at Jewish cemeteries and try to link the people. So you can click on a name and then more related people pop up, and then you can click yourself back in history, back in time, and so that was one source as well. But also so it's quite, I think. Yeah, it's good to know about one's own family history.
Of course.
But
by the way, so you grew up without knowing this, and since you grew up without any Jewish consciousness or any kind of that you have any background. Once I heard that actually I watched two lectures about it on the internet, on YouTube, that serious lectures about how German students, kindergartens or whatever, or civil society approach the past, and how did they relate to Israel at the present or to Jews at the present. Of course, Jewish community in the last 30 years grew from 20,000 or 15,000 to 150, 200,000 because of all the Russians and all the other immigrants who arrived lately. But as they showed us, they presented these documents about what kind of letters the Israeli embassy gets from people, every German people who complain or write to the embassy, and how people can how people learn what to answer on a questionnaire to be a good boy or a good girl and not to show its true self. It's really, that's why these days the pollings are always false because people like they want to look good or they want to lie. Like the same thing with questionnaires. That many people eat unhealthy, but it's psychologists
you don't want to
tested.
say it.
You don't want to say it. So you smoke less, you eat better when you being asked. So what I want to say, ask you that have you ever, since you didn't know and other also didn't thought of you as somebody with a Jewish background, did you have in your schools, on playground, or elsewhere anything that because in this presentation I heard that the Jew as a curse word is having a comeback, and not just from Turkish or Middle Eastern immigrants, but also in average German society. But it would never go up on an official. So it's plays in the background. So it's still anti-Semitism is a problem in Germany or not?
So the topic of the Jew is a curse word.
Or you spent 1 year in Great Britain in that private school. Maybe there, did you hear more cursing about Jews or whatever than in Germany? It also would be interesting if you elaborate on that.
So the first part of the question, like Jew as a curse word, like I haven't heard that.
Don't be a Jew.
No, like I haven't had contact with that. But I know that like it probably has happened. Like there is instances where it has happened, which was made public. I think like in the majority of cases, it is like with people with like background of people coming to Germany from the Middle East. But there's for sure. I mean, like because there is rising anti-Semitism, sadly, especially after October the 7th. But also before, just there is more.
During the COVID, also there was a rise in anti-Semitism.
Like with global conspiracies. But so I think there is more anti-Semitism, sadly. There's sometimes like jokes about like Holocaust and those times, and just Nazis. Like that does happen, but I haven't like had a direct contact with people saying, "Oh yeah, don't be a Jew," or I haven't had that. In England there was.
In Israel, so there are jokes about Holocaust. Because also September 11th was the next day there were jokes about it because this is one way to cope with the stress. So the second, third generation of criminals or survivors wants to get rid of soften the harsh past. Yes.
Yeah, I mean it's humor is one way to cope. That's true. Even though
it cannot straight away be labeled anti-Semitism, but it is.
But sometimes it just feels like they don't make the joke because it's like sometimes it feels like it's just a joke. They make the joke just to be like to be not like everybody else, like just to be against, and like you can't say that, so I'm gonna make a joke about it.
Because it's taboo, so you break the taboo. If you make big taboo out of this whole issue, then the younger generation will rebel. So that's why it's a very bad policy to surround it with fences.
In England, I think there was only like in my school, just like jokes. I mean,
during 1 year, did you hear Jewish jokes?
No, like mainly because I'm German, and there were like Jews making Germans
with you
in the Second World War, and like about that topic. But not. I think I really actually never had like an instance where somebody really made a joke directly like targeted at Jewish people.
By the way, if you count back those 3 generations, and that 6 generations just being halved to 4 generations, so those Jews, those people, those Germans with Jewish background, which were in the 30s, not strong enough because it was 4 or 5 generations away from the Nuremberg laws, so they didn't count as Jews. From these, they didn't count it as Mischlungen or mixed races because they were like already
Aryan.
Aryans, but I once I heard a number, a fantastic big number, 30, 40, 50,000 people like this served in the Wehrmacht.
Yeah.
So 50,000 people with Jewish background served in the Wehrmacht, and also some in the
Yeah. Maybe because I think that maybe many people like saw themselves at that point more as Germans.
Of course,
Just,
the sad and the tragic part for the German jury almost collectively felt more German than Jewish, and they were like kicked and pushed away, and that's why it was so hurtful. In Poland, it's always like that. If you don't think that you belong, then who cares if they say you are not belong here, because you knew it already. But if you are assimilated and already your identity has changed and you are looking at Berlin or Frankfurt more than to Jerusalem, then it hurts you more.
I mean, there was like many people who were like, we're not leaving after like the first anti-Semitic incident started, because they had like, oh, I got a honor medal in the First World War. Of course they can't, why would they come after me?
Yes.
I am German, and then they were still persecuted. So that's
And what are your plans? Well, you are playing cello.
Yeah, that's right.
Cello, and you're a professional player, almost being made under construction, but hope to be. This humanities. This is your way to study along.
Well, this is something I'm interested in. I don't think I'm going to study the cello. I think it's not.
No, but humanities, like
So it's something I'm very
and history,
especially history is one thing I'm very interested in. But it's quite hard for me because I'm interested in many different subjects, also not only humanities, but science as well, and so it's not very easy to say, okay, that's going to be it. But yeah, it's one big interest of mine. So
you have to decide this year or next year.
I want to start studying at the end of at the latest in autumn next year. So.
But then all this year you will prepare for a test, like to test yourself, to know what to do, what will your aptitude test?
No, just to find my decision. So I can do internships, talk to people I know, but I can do something completely different as well. I mean, I might probably just go to abroad for 2 months or 3 months, learn another language or something like that, and come back and do something else. So I think it's just a year to use for you and also for the decision what you want to do.
Okay.
That's the idea.
Okay, so let's do now. You ask me.
So it's quite a lot. I think about like the Jewish life from your perspective today. I mean, I quite a lot about the history already. Maybe also about the history of this synagogue. If you want to tell me about that. And I mean, maybe we should just start with like your way of like how it comes that you are a rabbi now here, and like you're a neolog rabbi here. I think you've lived in Israel as well. I think.
Yes, I lived in Israel when I was a child.
Maybe talk about yourself for the start, and then we can elaborate.
I was born in Hungary during the socialist era in '77, end of '77. So I'm 46 years old, and I was born into a mixed family. Just like 70% of my generations were born into a mixed family, which is like two parents are from different background. I mean, my mother converted to Judaism when I was 12 years old. I also converted in 1990 when I was almost 13. I had my circumcision back then when I was grown up. I mean, grown up, so 13 years old.
So you were brought up?
No, I was brought up like nothing. No Christian, nothing. Socialism, religion didn't play a role in the society, in our lives. Many people who were religious, they just hide it but anyway, I actually started to learn Hebrew earlier. I started to attend Sunday school or Talmud Torah on Sundays in '88. So when I was 11 years old, and the change of the regime came in 1990. So a Jewish school opened up. It was an American endowment school, and we have Israeli American teachers there. And in the first year, I was in seventh grade. I did all those that I told you already. That it was in the making, but still, it came to fruition back then. So I made I had my circumcision, and also I was with bar mitzvah. We also went to Israel to check out, and next year, end of the eighth grade, we made Aliyah. Okay. So we were there for a year or so, and then I came back. I went to another Jewish high school, then went for 2 years, and then I was an exchange student in America, in the northwest, Washington State, Seattle. Then I came back. I was a theological seminary student, rabbinical seminary student for a year and a half. Then I left, and 9 years later, I came back and I restarted or continued my rabbinical studies. So I wasn't thinking 1 year. I was thinking 9 years. What to do? So be careful. And straight away when I went back to the university on 2007 February. Summertime, 2007 summertime, I was already here by the side of Rabbi Doman.
Okay.
And I was reading Torah. I was when I was sick or when he was away. I substituted him. He gave me permission to speak, which was rare. Other colleagues of mine or other pupils told me that, did you let him speak? You're allowed to speak. No, they let me speak, and I remember that I was speaking that particular summer, 2007, and I was talking about how super. I remember almost one of the first speeches that I made, because it was about the Olympics, the Peking Olympics, which will be next year.
Yeah.
So because it was 2007 August, I thought a year from now there will be, and because and through the Chinese belief system and superstition, I was talking about superstition, that how important it was for a communist atheist country that the Olympics should start in 2008 in the 8th month on the 8th day at 8 o'clock at 8 minutes. So it's like, if you're not atheist, why are you superstitious? But still, I mean, superstition is even stronger than atheism. So the primitive belief will be stronger than. So it's like, so that was by the issue, the whole subject of the speech. And so I stuck here. I was stuck here. I mean, I wasn't stuck here. I stayed here by the side of this rabbi, and also around Hanukkah time. So that around December, I went to this other community on the outskirts of Budapest, and I was asked to be their substituting rabbi because there was nobody, not even a Chazan, a cantor, and no rabbi. So this was a restarting community. So I was there half of my time, and here half of my time, and I did this parallelly for 7 years. And then later, when the rabbi got sick and died, I came here to be here full time. This was in 2015, and since then I'm here the boss, but the smicha, the rabbinical smicha, the rabbinical smicha, I got in 2017. So also 2017. But now it's like 7 years ago. I mean, last month it was 7 years ago. So I chose neology stream because first of all, because I think Orthodoxy and the Reform movement on the other side, which is on the other side of the spectrum, both exaggerate They too much. They are influenced by by. Um, There is this joke. This joke that you might love. You will understand and you might love. What is the difference between the Orthodox, the Neolog, and the Reformed wedding? So during the Orthodox wedding, all the future mother-in-laws, the in-laws, the future in-laws, and the mother of the groom and the bride are still pregnant with their 11th, 12th child, and they're there next to the huppah, standing there with their little scandals, but pregnant. And their children are under the huppah, but the last children is still in their stomach or the tummy. What is the typical Neolog wedding that the bride is pregnant, and then the Reform wedding the rabbi is pregnant. So yeah. So I think I choose the middle. So I mean, it's a joke, but it's so short and so simple. The Orthodox community, maybe also during the Middle Ages, it really had like sectarian attitudes, but with the time it got probably worse. The control. So it's a control freak toward the religion, toward each other, and if you are not applied to yourself, you're out, or you're punished, or whatever. But you know, in the Middle Ages, the rabbis were really the heads of the community. So and they formed kind of an oligarchy with the most charitable people together. The religious leadership with the wealthy donors, and when you were punished, really with sanctions or with sticks or whatever. So since they don't have this one, because the modern state took away these statutes, these laws from the Jewish community and from other communities as well. So during the reign of Maria Theresia, and all these laws were slowly taken away from the community. So before Napoleon, after Napoleon, during this Aufklärung era, all these the Kehila, the community which was set aside, which was a parallel society with the Christian society, it was completely dismantled, and that was the price to be accepted by the host countries. And it went somewhere better, some didn't go well.
Like their own laws and their own ways that was taken away.
Well, the laws were taken away, but the force to enforce the law.
Yeah. Okay.
That he can punish you by hitting you or by closing you in a dungeon. That was taken away. So and laws without punishment are like a tiger without a teeth. So in this new era, rabbinical authority is questioned more easily because you have freedom of speech and they can do anything for you, either to you. They cannot punish you, and there were two or three very big crises that shook the Jewish world. There was this false Messiah in the middle of the 17th century. I told you about Shabtai Tzvi, which shook the Jewish world because that was the third most most believed false Messiah in Jewish history. We count Jesus as well among the false ones, but still, he's the strongest. He took away half of the Jewry. Then Bar Kokhba, who who led the third revolt against the Romans, which was completely a disaster, and the hope of retaining power or whatever it was lost, and the destruction was complete, and it was a third in line from the destruction of the temple, then in the 110s and 130, 33, 34, 35. These were the 3 years of Bar Kokhba revolt. It was completely devastating after the Torah was banned and very harsh restrictions. Then Shabtai Tzvi, which like half of the Jewish community was taken by him. Believed him. Many rabbis were kicked out or beaten, and Jews were like buying up all the tickets from Hamburg and from Antwerp and Hague or which another big port there in the was the Atlantic Ocean shore. So all these places were overflowing with Jewish people who thought that the Messiah has arrived, so we are going back, we are going to greet him, and that history now is turning in our favor. And they were talking in this language and in this tone with the Christian overlords as well. So when it became known that he was a false Messiah because he was asked to either to die for his cause or to convert to Islam. He converted to Islam.
I mean, didn't then many like some
they had their reasons. They had their Kabbalistic, Neoplatonistic hooplas to explain how it's not a problem, why it's kosher, why it's a must to do, to vacuum clean all the little sparks that was blown apart during the creation. You have to collect all these points like in the Super Mario game. So you have to collect all these sparks. And then Islam is full of these sparks. So I have to dive deep into this Islam. So of course, if somebody prays in the mosque, he doesn't break any Torah laws. Because there are no idols and there's no idol worship, so they are not serving a man or anything, just God, but their own way. And the problem is that the Quran starts with that the Jews counterfeited the Bible, and that's why it's a bit tricky to follow Islam or whatever. But to pray or to mimic that you are a Muslim and as a Jew, you never had to. It is always like a halakhic law during the Middle Ages. You never have to become a martyr to look like a Muslim or to fake or to mimic to be a Muslim because you don't break any law. So he converted with followers as well. So a couple of thousand people converted to Islam. But later his influence later generations on kept on brewing, and many people with new ideas or strange ideas were labeled as crypto-Shabtaians. So there were persecutions even 150 years later, and people were pointing finger at others so that you are Shabtaian, you are Shabtaian. So when the Hasidic movement started, they also were labeled as neo-Shabtaians or whatever. But by the way, parallelly, there were some people who claimed to be reincarnation of Shabtai Tzvi. So Jakob Frank, a Bohemian, East German person, Jew, said that he's the reincarnation. You have a very good description in the internet about Jakob Frank. At the end, he converted to Christianity with his followers. But still, you can see that it was very, very much, and false messiahs, when hope is dim, then people with with big ideas arrive that try to change the situation.
Yeah.
Egoistics or true naives who believe about themselves all kinds of strange things, it's okay, it's fine. The problem is that how the official, almost un, un, unerring, um, un, un, what unfallible, like the papal, there's this unfallible papal. It is Scotland believes that the popes, when he makes a decree, is unfallible, unfallible. So there is something close to in the Jewish mind that the rabbis in the Middle Ages from the Talmud, before that no, because there were not so many rabbis, but from the Talmud or Mishnah and Talmud on until this the Spanish expulsion and the Aufklärung, these 200 years, the rabbis lost almost all their magical influence above the people.
During this 200 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because the people saw that they are make mistakes, and they completely cannot recognize if somebody a false messiah, because too many rabbis believed also in him, or in Rachel Frank, or in the others, or were too harsh by punishing others, which they're like they were in the masses eyes, they were abusing their power.
Okay.
So and of course there were situations like when a community wanted to I don't know in Russia one of the Russian Tsars, I think Nicholas III or Alexander II, some Tsar in the middle 19th century after Napoleon made this decree that the Jewish children will be taken away from the community, X percentage, and they will serve like 25 years in the Russian army.
Okay.
So if you are taken away at the age of 6, 7, you will be lost. You will only be Jewish by the time you finish 35 or 31, 32 when you get out of the army. And this was like Janissary. This was like a complete disaster for families.
Yeah.
And the rich people's children and the rabbi's children were never taken away.
It's another point to question.
Another point, another example that the awe, the respect was evaporized away. So during the 19th century, when this new era began, I was talking about the awe of the rabbis and the respect of the rabbis.
Yeah.
So there was this also a decree when Maria Theresia, before Napoleon, during her age, there were discoveries that 2 or 3 places in two or three instances in Europe, people discovered that bodies were exhumated after for reburial, and people noticed that in some cascades, cascades, cascades. That's how you say it. Coffins. So coffins. There were like markings inside, like scratchings, markings. So some people were buried alive, or they were alive, but the people thought they were dead. They thought to be dead, and they woke up in the deep, in the dark, in the cold, and they probably suffocated and did die. At the end, since they wanted to with this discovery, they wanted to do something. So in many places in Europe, they legislated a new law during Maria Theresia, in other places too, but during her era, to wait 3 days with the burial.
Okay.
And this was a very good indicator which community, which rabbi. I mean, it wasn't a test for the Jews. It was a completely unconnected to the Jews. It was an overall law for everyone.
But those,
But with the Jewish, it was went against like head on with the Jewish custom that the dead should be buried on the day of the death.
so were the I didn't quite get that. Were the burials of where you discovered the stretch marks?
They were not Jewish.
They were not Jewish.
Were not Jewish. Were not Jewish. But since they thought it happens to everybody, or might happen to everybody, it was forbidden to anybody to bury for 3 days.
Yeah,
so I have to wait to be sure that they do die. They did die, and there were. This was the first friction within. I mean, I think first measurable friction within the Jewish community. Who and what kind of answer they gave to this order. They did say that we obey because it's true, it's very human, and to wait and or whatever. Or said that screw you, we have our own law, we have our own methods to testing his state of life and death. So we will bury them. Doesn't matter what the law says. So these things made these first frictions, and when the Aufklärung started and the Christianity got after all the Christian religious wars, which destroyed Central Europe and Christianity's respect.
Yeah.
The new Aufklarists or enlightened thinkers thought about humanistic values, and since the Jews are humans, so they were approaching them in a different way, and they hated Christianity or they despised Christianity or looked down on Christianity. So if Christianity hated someone, he was sympathetic.
Okay.
So they loved Judaism, they loved Islam, or they loved anything that is not Christian. So
the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah. So the humanists. So it was a fast process because of these psychological, philosophical backgrounds. So not just because the majority in certain countries started to, or the elite started to be favorable with the Jews, but also within the Jewish community there was frictions, and the respect of the rabbis got weaker, and Christianity in its all-encompassing nature got weaker within Europe. So that's why it was much more easy to offer Jews equal rights or Bürgerrechte. Citizenship or the rights, citizen rights. So it happened first in America, then in the same decade in France. Of course, but in France it was easy. In America it was easy because in the colonies, or in France, the Jewish community didn't reach 0.01%, 0.05%. So it was like very funny. In a France of 35 or 40 million people, there were less than 40,000 Jews. So there was not that much. But here in the East, the numbers were different. 100,000 and millions lived in the East, and their thinking, the local populace thinking, was not there. So the need for equal rights was much more burning here, but they got it 100 years or 150 years later than in France or in America.
Why was it more burning here?
Because much more Jews lived here, so that's why it was concerning much. It was help a large amount of people, of course. But the most rights, or the fastest, one of the fastest development of the Jewish situation It was in Hungary in Hungary they got equal rights, and because of the in the 19th century it changed later, but in the 19th century Hungary was very much wanted to mimic France. Of course, it was under Austrian, German occupation, because they inherited the last king before the Turkish invasion, and they were the ones who like with their leadership the Germans were the Turks were kicked out, so they kind of inherited and subjugated Hungary and annexed almost Hungary, and there were many rebellions against them, and each time it was bigger and stronger. All the rebels. The last one was almost won, but it was crushed with Russian help, with Tsarist Russian help, because of the Holy League in 1815. They agreed that if there will be a rebellion against uprising, that they will help each other. So that's how it was crushed. Otherwise, they could have won. They wanted to give the Jews rights even during that revolt, during the 48-49 revolt, but it was delayed to 67. But the number of Jews in Hungary was the biggest compared to the host nation, and they got the most right, because there were more Jews in Poland, for instance, but they got less rights, and because the Polish self-description of what is it how do you define a Pole, or how do you define a Russian or Ukrainian, national identities in identification or description, was always following all the Slavic nations where most of the Jews lived, followed the German model, and the German model was based on who is a real German, who is an authentic German, is based on blood and soil. It's like a tribal identity. That we are here, and we are coming from the same stem. And that's why you're German. If somebody is here from elsewhere, he's not a German. What can we do?
Yeah, so if you're born there, and if your like ancestors or parents were.
No, if your ancestors are from here.
Okay. Then that's
the main part. But the French, maybe because of their own history, maybe clearly because of maybe a strong Catholic background, maybe because of the Aufklärung, the ideas, but the French model became completely based on just within the borders and the language. So culture and language, that's how you define who is a French.
Interesting. It's still the same today. If you're born in the US, you can still be German if your parents are German.
Yes. By the way, Israel mimics the German model.
Okay.
Israel is an ethno state.
So if you're,
ethno state. It also has a religious aspect, but it's much more an ethno state.
Okay. So there's like the aspect, like if you're one of your grandparents.
Yes. It is based on the Nuremberg laws.
Yeah.
And the French model is like the American model, the Aufklärung model, that if you believe what France is about, égalité, fraternité, liberté, and then you also speak French, and you die and you want to die or ready to die to defend these ideas and France, and you're French. There's no problem. Doesn't matter if you're from Corsica or Senegal. And truly, I mean, of course, people are not many times that can be that lofty that their ideas or their philosophers' ideas, but according to the principle, you are a French. But it's very much different, or used to be different in Germany. I mean, still may be the same among the masses, but maybe the latest constitution after the war, maybe it has this more universalistic ideas, but probably the average German it still believes or feels that doesn't matter if the Turkish is here 4 generations, it's still Auslander.
Interestingly, many like the rising number of youth in Germany. So the first generation, of course, they still believe, okay, I came from Turkey and just live in Germany. Second generation of like people coming there, they believed that they were German. And the third generation, which is like now, they are more saying, oh, I'm like, where are you? Like, when you ask them, oh, where are you from? They say, I'm from Turkey. I'm from Albania. I'm from, So it's quite interesting, like how it's.
No, but it's also due to that fact that you have this civilizational clash or some kind of a clash that how much is compatible with the Western ideas, and because his father, the second generation, was sometimes pushed away and humiliated that you're not German. Doesn't matter if you're born here, you don't know a word in Turkish, and you were born here, you speak German, but you're still not German. So, in order to not to be offended and humiliated, as a self-defense, the child will close in and choose a more conservative way, and also because the Islam and Turkey comes up, and Germany, with all the population and everything, goes down. So you have two reasons: self-defense, psychological self-defense, and I'm coming from that area, which is coming up and growing and getting stronger. So I'm from there. So it's also identification. It happened also in Judaism. So many times the Jewish turn back to return to our forefathers is the result of the Holocaust. So somebody became communist, universalist, and atheist, but many people doubled down and said that I will be more Jewish than my grandfather because he went on to become Hungarian, and the Hungarians almost killed him. So now I become an extra Jew.
Okay.
So it's like this Libico, or this swing or something. Pendulum that goes back and forth.
Right. So in.
We were that how is the European or the Western civilization has these two ways during the Romantic times, or the Romantic era during the 19th century, which is marked by Wagner and everything else. So Bismarck and Wagner and all the rest imagined a Germany of the German folk, and the German folk doesn't contain Poles and Jews, just the minimum that we have to suffer, but not more than that. Of course, there were 400,000 of Jews back then, so it was like Germany had the third most Jews in the world back then. So the Russian Empire had the most because it swallowed up Ukraine and Poland. When Ukraine was part of Poland, so Poland and Belarus and the Baltic states. So Jews were living there. So Jewish numbers were growing from. Let's also have to put in your mind that the Jewish population number was the lowest around the 15th, 16th century. So the Spanish expulsion and so on. So they were like, these are just rough estimates, but they were like a million and a half Jews in the 16th century, 15th, 16th century.
In Europe or in general?
In general.
Okay.
1.5 million, maybe 2, but less than 2. And then during around 1680, 1690, so before the 18th century, and the 17th century, all of a sudden, maybe because of all the foods, extra calories that came in from America, corn, potato, and everything, there was this boom of population in Northern Europe, also Industrial Revolution and so on, and the Jewish population started to grow rapidly. So, first time in history, the European Jewish population became bigger than the Muslim lands population, Jewish population, end of the 17th century. And out of this 800,000, 1 million Jews, in less than 250 years became 16 million. And the Muslim world's population from Morocco till Afghanistan, I mean Muslim lands,
Yeah.
population almost remained the same.
Okay.
High, high childbirth mortality because they were urbanic. Many times they were urban living populations, so they had less children, and all these schools from Europe, the influence from France arrived there, so they had less children than before. So it's not stagnated, but it grew maybe 500,000, while the other grew 15 folds. So it's like what's the difference? Um, um, Maybe I wanted something to add on to this rabbinical respect. So when the rabbinical respect, let's go back to the rabbinical respect. So when the rabbinical respect was broken, and people wanted to get away from this pressure that was built up inside the Kehillah, inside this oligarchic system, uh, on the east side of Europe, when the Hasidic movement started, which is like very closely related to Sufism and the Bhakti movement in India. So this ecstasy seeking religious renewal with dance and like drugged up of alcohol and everything. So this movement doubled down, and they said that the rabbis they are so the rabbinical or the leader type from rabbi became or were blown up into be a rabbi. A rabbi is like a guru, so it's like a spiritual master, not just someone who knows the history, the Torah and the laws, and can you give you
Like a teacher?
It's like a spiritual teacher that teaches you everything, and his movements and his whatever is like every word and every letter what he comes out of his mouth is like gold. So just like gurus in India.
Yeah.
So while in the western side of Europe, people were like coming out, and sometimes many times the elite converted to Christianity just to be have free movements within the Christian society and be free to choose to settle what they want, to study what they want, because the Jews couldn't apply to universities until the 19th century freely. Um, on this side of Europe, Jews were closing into themselves, into this fantasy world of mysticism with all these Jewish gurus.
Yeah.
But it was also a because their environment was not French environment. There was this primitive, still very much medieval Slavic environment, which when it wanted to be modernized, they mimicked the German model and became nationalistic in a tribal way, which is still not ready to accept or incorporate new elements within the structure. So, for instance, many times in a Russian empire with Russian tsars, where you have Tatar and Buddhist Buryat subjects, much more easy to be a Jewish subject there, because it's a mixed empire. But when it becomes a Russian nation state, then you are not a Russian.
Yeah.
So that's a problem for you. So many times, either a universalist state like the United States, Canada, Brazil, or France is a good way to be a Jew, or good place to be a Jew, or in an empire like a Persian Empire or Russian Empire, or Persian Empire was also good, but other empires, Roman empires, where when you have a lot of minorities, so you're not stick out.
You're
not the only one. There's this other Jewish joke that in Belgium there's this huge quarrel and fight after before during the football match in the stadium. The Belgian police comes out with water cannons, loudspeaker. As the Polish chief says, "The Flamands to the right, the Wallons to the left. I repeat, the Wallons to the right, the Flamands to the left." Mr. Cohen, the Jewish guy, raises his hands. And where should stand the Belgians? Did you know this?
Yeah, I didn't know.
Did you know?
That's good. Yeah.
So that's how it was good to be Jew in these places when you're not alone. By the way, in some way. You might think, or it can be in certain way, or in certain places true that during when the Reformation came, it was horrible for the Jews because everybody was much more fervent in their own way and much more strict toward the Jews. Many times, in a way, it was hard time for the Jews as well. But in another way, it was very much easy that from now on we are not the only freak in town. That you have other minorities, doesn't matter if it's a Catholic town, Catholic country with Protestant minority or other way around. So it's much more maneuverability.
Yeah. So they aren't the only ones.
Yes. But we jumped from the rabbis to the nation state. The nation state. What were the cracks and how they reacted and how was the continent? What was the question?
We were originally talking about. You were talking about like Orthodox movement.
The Orthodox movement didn't want to apply those new laws. They wanted to stay where they were, but since they were reacting to other Jews who did choose to go along, and they opened up Jewish schools with the curriculum to study other subjects and study in their language, in German, in French, in Hungarian, or whatever. These all were shunned by the other communities. They didn't want to use their language, the host nation's language, because this is a gateway to assimilation, gateway to mixed marriages, gateway to fade away. Later on, 100 years later or 80 years later, 3-4 generations later, they all did the same. But since you can also say if you are within the group and when you want to to boast about the group's wisdom, you said, you see, at the end we were allowed and managed to teach ourselves on our terms. But if you want to be negative with this standpoint, you can always say that we change the world for you, and now you can say that the world changed enough that you can play what you want to play.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but it was okay. They didn't cut off the girls' nose or didn't pour acid on their faces, but the way the Taliban is always shying away to open up schools for girls or to teach Western curriculum, or in Saudi Arabia used to be a problem. The same way this community was closing away from teaching in a modern way, in a modern school. So because it was always about the rabbis' honor and respect, and the new ways might suck away, might attract away the children. So they will run after worldly careers outside of the community, and they will get lost.
So the idea is that if you open up to like the anything, then they might get torn away or like put away from.
Because the ghetto is you can underline this sentence. The ghetto is built also from inside.
Yeah. Good sentence.
So it's not just built from the outside. So when Napoleon's army are going through Europe and marching through Europe and kicks down all the ghettos walls and ghettos gates, the Russian Tsars, Jews from the Russian Empire are spying on Napoleon to the Tsar. They didn't want him to win.
Okay, because they didn't want that to be permanent.
They didn't want him to be permanent because then their control, their world is lost. Because they have this 1,500, 1,800. Of course, they think that it's from Moses, but if you look at it critically, you can see that it's not from Moses, but from the Mishnah, from the Talmudic times, they have this certain way of life, which they're head of it, and they're the head of it, and or they're standing at the top of it, and their control and their say is what God says, or vice versa, and this world is built on a dichotomy, us and them. We cannot become them, and hopefully, and thank God, the Russians are not like the French. They don't want us to become them. So it's like more useful. So we should keep the demonic world outside, and we live inside.
Yeah. So that's like the idea of the Orthodox back then.
Yes.
But you chose neurolog because it's like between the like.
No, I chose neolog because in Orthodoxy, the Orthodoxy never question strong enough, the Middle Age or the late antiquity is sentences. They consider the Talmud the word of God, and all the laws that are derived from that set of laws they consider holy. And if you show those laws to someone with an IQ of 60 or 50, they will still say that it's unjust. So if I believe in a just God, I cannot really believe that God would issue or give laws like this.
Give me an example.
An example, what is the most tragic one, like the most horrible ones?
Well, like, they need to be most horrible, but just some idea to do it.
No, if you can try a new drug on your slave. or if you save a non-Jew from drowning or from danger, you're not supposed to do it. You're not forced to do it. It's not a law, but you have to help him, so the reciprocity will work. But you don't owe him. You don't owe it to God, because he's a pagan.
Yeah.
So he's not there to serve God. So his life is worth nothing.
Okay.
Pretty harsh.
Yeah.
But you do save him, but only that you or another Jew will be saved later by them, because otherwise the reciprocity wouldn't work.
Okay.
So it's not so just.
Yeah.
So it's so moral. I mean, it's logical, but it's cruel logical, and it's not so moral. You cannot just see him as a person in the image of God, and by per se you are saving him because he's an image of God. You're saving him because of self-interest.
Okay.
So there's no altruistic in it.
Yeah.
And in another way, but in other places, they have the audacity to say that the non-Jewish world don't have how do you say this word? You just said this word. Altruistic. Yeah. So there's no altruistic in the outside world.
Yeah.
But in this law, you can see that if you don't do it out of altruistic, that you don't have it either.
Yeah.
So it's like. So probably I don't The example of the Good Samaritan,
Yeah.
the example of the Good Samaritan, that how the priest and the Levite don't help, and the sectarian, the following of this sect that nobody cares about and is his enemy, the Samaritan from the other holy temple in Samaria, not in Jerusalem, but he's like an enemy, but he helps. It's probably a cruel joke against this the establishment and how they are caring for their ritual purity, because they don't touch him because of their ritual purity, but according to the Jewish law or according to the Torah law, you do have to like manage or risk to be impure, but still you have to save a life. But since they think that other people will save, or they think that maybe they're not non-Jew or whatever, they don't help.
Okay.
And the Samaritan does help, and that's it's very cruel and very strong criticism of this whole system, which is not talking about the same thing that we are now talking about, but the analogy and the example is still standing, that you need to help, and there is no excuse, no ritual, no theological excuse not to help.
Okay. Yeah, like there isn't. You see, there isn't that, which means that
There isn't any reason not to help, so you must help, and that's why it's a very strong and because it's not the same situation that I was talking about, but still it's a very good example and criticism of this tilted, or this not straight path when Judaism makes a mistake. And it's a good criticism of it.
Okay. And so the reform, on the other hand, is like like so the Orthodox is like very sometimes in the law is very, as you said, like not cruel, but like
it's strict, very strict, unforgivingly strict, and because of they reacting to this growing people who are leaving their fold, and they cannot do anything against it because they're restricted by the law, so they cannot force themselves upon the masses. So they start to protect the rest, which stayed inside the fold. So they create new barriers and new barriers and new barriers. So that's why Orthodoxy is also a new wave of Judaism, because they are much less flexible than in the Middle Ages, because they have new laws, and that's why they are nowadays everybody looks and dresses the same. You know, this black and white stuff. It's a ghetto, but it's a ghetto that you wear on yourself. You don't separate yourself with walls in a part of the city anymore. You wear it on yourself, and there this is the ghetto wall. Your black uniform. That's the ghetto wall. And so on and so forth. So it's like in this community, if you wear not white shirt or shirt underneath the suit, it's also already not following the path. So there in Israel there are some kindergartens that your child won't be accepted if you are not.
Okay. I mean, other people say that because of those many like laws and restrictions, they then are able to have like quite a lot of freedom within those, because they have those clear rules that they then, if they just like follow that, then they can just like, you know, that there's quite a positive side to that.
There's a positive side that you from childhood until death, you know what you will wear. So
that is one.
There is no fashion. It's just one fashion. Don't think when you shop you can do the same thing. If you get bigger, you get fatter, you will just change the size. No, no.
Okay.
No,
So you view it more as like restrictive.
listen, I talked many times because I went to an Orthodox school, and later I worked with I worked in an organization of an Orthodox rabbis. I liked him. I talked a lot with his children, and I did this big long talks with his very like. Very genius little son,
Okay.
and he was always the top of his class all the time. And this is the conversation that once I had with him. Two conversations. He had a bigger brother who went astray, went to Tel Aviv to play music, smoke weed, I don't know what, and then he came back 2 years later. And later, when he came back, he still wear his became also again, religious again, but wasn't ready to dress completely the same. He was wearing black, but he was wearing with colorful shirts or whatever. And because of this whole little adventure in Tel Aviv for 2 years, and because he's not completely fitting back again completely, he couldn't really choose from all the girls that he wanted, because many want to get married with him. And his child was not accepted into any kindergarten, just a certain, because her father was touched by other demons or whatever. And I asked him that I asked this marvelous guy, his younger brother, that what do you think about that? Isn't it sick? And but why cannot he wear white?
He said.
He said.
Okay.
Why is he still wants to show that he's different or whatever? So it's very much like in Japan, because you have to fit into that thing. But not that was the shocking conversation, but the other thing was with him, with the young guy, with the gifted one. He was growing up. When he was growing up, he was best of his class. When he worked during the summer or did something, earned some money, he gave away as charity. So it's like a angel on earth, like very much lives what he believes, and what is written is applied to his life. But when I had a conversation with him about he was like 23, 24 when I was talking with him about this. His wife was also 24. She was studying here, finishing her psychological studies at the university in English. She was from an American background. They will follow this family model that the woman works, the husband studies all day long for charity. It's like a religious duty, and learns and teaches all day, and that's how many religious women want to live with a yeshiva student like this.
Okay. It's like just an orthodox. No, that's quite cool.
Oh yeah, very much like that. The women work, and the husband works in a way that he studies.
Okay.
He can also teach, by the way, but write books, but otherwise he studies. And he gets scholarship till his death for that, for charities, or for personal donors. And in Jewish mind and Jewish tradition, it benefits both of them. So the one who doesn't have time or too sick ass to sit on and study because it's hard, so he pays someone who sits and studies, and the merit is for both of them.
Okay.
So just like it's the same way like in Theravada Buddhism in Thailand. So you are celibate and I have a big family, but I pay you and I feed you.
Then it's okay.
So
The young
the young guy. So I said, okay. So I called him, let's say Moshe. This is his name is different, but
yeah. I mean, I was know him anyways.
yeah. So Moshe, how many friends do you have from the yeshiva? Because he stepped up from yeshiva, he went to a kollel. So it's for adults. But how many friends you kept from your past, from your high school years? So I don't have any from that time. I mean, I mean, that's the most that's the best years when you like um, get you earn or you find your best friends from those years, and it can last till the end of your life. Yes, but were they in your wedding? They were invited to your wedding? Yes, they were invited. I remember after I went to a kollel, they went to a different kollel, and we learn other sugiot, other stuff, other subjects. So you don't visit each other on Fridays or for Shabbos or a meal, wherever. It's very much not supported. It's frowned upon. Why? Because because we study different things, then we cannot really talk about share that topic deeply. And if you don't watch movies, you don't read novels or books, you don't watch sports, you don't go to the theater, you can talk about personal matters and personal life, but is it not nice to talk about personal life with strangers outside of the family? So you end up with no subject to talk about. Oh my God. How can you share your problems with anyone? Because it becomes a gossip or a scandal or whatever. It's a lashon hara. It's like a bad tongue. So it's like if it's true. If you're complaining to a stranger about your wife, you give out your wife. So you give out. So you cannot really talk. And you can invite your kollel friends. It's also not supported because well, he gave one reason, but I don't remember other reasons. I recorded it because I wanted to make I did make a short article about him, about this whole conversations. I had it one of my old phones, this whole conversation. But he said that it's not really looked upon well if you visit each other like families, because you might fall in love with the other person's spouse. So I said, then how come that the single persons are invited to families like yours, and they are invited and they are welcome there, and they are in the same age, like maybe the youngsters there, or wedded ones or single ones. Is it not a problem? Well, this is a mitzvah, and because that person comes from so far away, from so far away, there's not even a chance in a million years that it can be a match or a relationship, become a relationship. So, so I said, so therefore, you have no other way to talk about your problems, uh, just just with your rabbi.
Because you have no really close friends.
No, just family. But if you have a problem with your family, if you have a problem that you don't want to share with your family, you might have, then you cannot really talk about it with everyone. So it's like you can also just talk with somebody above you, which is your rabbi, and or some other rabbi that you trust. But if you have problem with the system, you don't want to share it with someone who is responsible for the system.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So it's like I kind of, I have very good friends and I love to talk, I love to share. And suddenly it reminded me East Germany on steroids. So,
Who can I talk to?
who can I talk to? Who can I talk to? Not allowed, not allowed, not allowed. Will come back on me what I say here and there. And if you want to go, like if you move, if you need something, you truly have a Gemacht phone book, like it's a charity phone book that I don't have a I say that the
Drill.
drill.
Yeah.
I don't have a drill, so I have this thing that someone has 10 drills, so I can land from him, or a dress for a wedding or whatever. There's this whole charity network, and you don't have to buy anything. 10 chairs you can get from someone because he has 1,000 chairs and he gives away to lands away and then gets back, and this is the charity, his good deeds. But and also same thing. If I attend the synagogue and I have a problem with the car, can you push the car? Everybody comes down and pushes the car. But if I fall out with the system, then nobody will be allowed to help, even though he wants to help because he loves me.
Yeah. Because it's quite
So I don't know what kind of a. If you're Orthodox, you cannot watch a movie really because it's waste of time. You could have studied Torah. If you watch a movie, if there's a kissing scene or worse, then there's a problem. It's a problem on many levels. They are not married. Why do you watch it? It's their own business, whatever. The subject as well, if it raises questions or ideas that more belongs to Nietzsche or other philosophers, it's also if it leads to kfira, if it leads to unbelief, rejection of beliefs, then it's not good. It's not good entertainment. So no theater, no films, or just family-friendly films. Walt Disney and down. And the books also very can be very dangerous. So classical music, you are king there. So it's all the way. Everything is okay, fine, because nobody sings. Because opera is already a problem because you cannot hear women singing. Because women singing, the voice of a woman is erotic as her nipple.
Okay. Yeah. No, because I was wondering because there was this EU conference or like EU meeting of the task force against meeting of the task force against anti-Semitism last week, 2 weeks ago. I think. And they, in the end of the one day, they had some representatives of the Jewish community there. I think some from Chabad as well. And then there was a woman singing,
and
they went out. Yeah, so I was wondering like, why did they do it? Maybe because, but that's probably the reason. Yeah.
The same thing if he shows her clitoris. It's like so much a problem. So it's in the Israeli army. In the Israeli army, if you get in more religious guys, they wouldn't accept a female trainee, a trainer, or a singer, or so on and so forth. So it's a very very big stuff, and they don't shake hands, and they don't just like women, religious Muslims don't shake hands, but they don't have a problem with singing voices. So it's like it's even stricter than Islam.
Okay.
So it said that it gives you freedom.
It's like one thing I heard.
That's propaganda. That's bullshit propaganda. I just wanted to tell you this couple of one other. You have still have time. So there's one other very. Many times I told it in Hungarian, but I feel it very um, unjust ruling or a unjust situation. During menses, during women's period, you are not allowed. You are married. You are not allowed to be together. You have to wait until the end of the period. In some place in Talmud, the daughters of Jerusalem took upon themselves to wait another 7 days, clean days, and only then be together with their husbands. Uh, and this custom, arbitrary custom of the daughters of Jerusalem, became a strict law for everybody.
Yeah.
Why? Cannot go back. I'm not from Jerusalem. Whatever. And you cannot really go back. Everybody accepts that this is the rule of the land, all lands, not just Jerusalem, and not at this time. Well, your sexual relationship with your wife gets shorter in 7 days. Okay, let's say you can still suffer it. It's not from God, it's from the daughters of Jerusalem. And then, there are some women with a certain type of nature, body, biology, that they have their fertile eggs or egg fertilization or their fertilization period is not after these 7 days on the 12th of their month, but before.
Okay.
And they cannot get pregnant, not because they are sick, not because they are barren, but only because they wait these stupid 7 days.
Okay. Yeah.
And once I heard that a doctor in an Orthodox newspaper wrote an article, a black kippah wearing Orthodox doctor wrote an article about this whole situation, with all the respect, because he parts of this whole group, to find an answer to this problem, because it's a legitimate problem, and there are women who are barren just because of the halakha, just because of the Jewish law and custom, not because they are truly barren. And he was ostracized and cast out.
Okay.
So it is not human and it's very cruel.
Okay.
Maybe there are rabbis who do allow it. I'm just saying that the trend is always, not these days, maybe there were other centuries that was different, but these days the trend is always to the more extreme. To the more extreme. Just like in Islam.
But like two ends of the extreme, so that's like Orthodox, but I mean you talked about reform as well.
I'm just saying that why I'm not Orthodox. That's why I'm not Orthodox. That's why I'm not Orthodox. And why I'm not reform. First of all, there was not an option and not a chance to be. I never studied really, I studied Orthodoxy and this neo, which is like a very a bit critical, but it's a fake neology, because most of the neo rabbis came from Orthodox families, so it's like because they were behind the Iron Curtain, so they could not go anywhere else. So that's why they stayed in this place, and they attended that school. But later they kind of changed and they like choke everything which is like more progressive, because they have their own mentality from back home. So and it's not working. That's funny. The last 30 years, and they're trying it, and it's not working.
The Orthodox.
No, this pseudo orthodoxy that the many neo rabbis try, but it does not work, and because they don't get money from the people, but from the state, they can try again. It doesn't matter, because they have their livelihood. But otherwise, if the livelihood depended upon the members, of the community, they would have tried other things.
Yeah. So those are people from the Neo community?
Yes, the neo rabbis, most of the neo rabbis come from Orthodox backgrounds.
Okay, yeah, so
The reform movement, I think I, I, I completely share the view of fair play. I like fair play, and I like justice and equality. And if the women are given equality in everyday life, and women are doctors and lawyers and scientists and pilots and whatever, then you cannot make sit her behind the bars there. And especially if it wasn't her custom, she didn't grow up in this environment, and you want to attract her back into the fold, you cannot force her to be a second class only here. Choose and like to be second class.
And that would be another question, like whether the new, like it is attractive and like today it's growing.
But I don't really like. And sometimes I heard some prayers and some songs that were sung by female singers and female cantors. Yeah. Otherwise, I think also it's also strange for me to listen to female cantors. I did hear wise women who were saying very good sermons and lots of wise things and new things about Judaism. Fantastically smart women. I just don't know if they why if you say that we changed Judaism in a way and that's it, we changed it, but I don't know why they have to wear a kippah. So the kippah looks strange even on us, and how strange it looks on a woman, especially if she has long hair or whatever. Or so it's like no, I want to be equal and I want to wear, and I can feel and show equal if I wear trousers. So it's like not the trousers make it the equality, the mindsets and the laws give equality. So kippah. I told you already this. In the Torah, nobody wears any kind of a headgear. Nobody. There's a headgear for the high priest. And then later on in the Talmudic era, they say that somebody who wants to hide from God and be closed in and shy away from God because you're afraid of Him, like you don't want to stand like this, but you hide away when you pray. So you put something on your head, like to not be in His sight or in His sight, but you don't show yourself because you might find this not a mistake, but a falsity on you, a fault on you. So that's why you hide away. Okay. You uncloak yourself in your talit, which is you're gonna be your grave, or you're gonna be your coffin at the end. So they bury you in your prayer souls.
What do you do you get it with the bar mitzvah, or do you get your?
In the Sephardic community, you get it in the bar mitzvah, but you have to wear it from the bar mitzvah time. I mean, you have to wear it during the when you go up to the Torah, or if you are like a bal tefillah, if you pray in front of the community, then the customary to wear it. Otherwise, you get it from your wife, your bride.
Okay.
But it's also because when this middle-aged community started like this, it was so expensive, and the community was so the average. Not there were some rich people, but the average was not so rich. So in the Muslim lands, the children get it from their parents, and it was a gift. And if they have many children, then but wedding is a much bigger investment. So in Europe, the bride's family and the bride gives it to.
Okay.
It's a whole different level of expenditures.
Yeah.
So reform. I think reform is too much because of this dressing. It was just a symbolic thing that I wanted to show you that if you want to be a rabbi or leader or you have your say, why should you wear a kippah? Even men, if you are reformed, men should not wear a kippah because until the Middle Ages, nobody wore a kippah. Some righteous people, like very mystical people, very few wore kippah. And then in the 11th century, they say that for the prayer, wear a kippah or something on your head. And in the 15th century, 16th century, they say that don't make 4 steps without head covering. And nowadays, people, but you cannot, if you stay, if you sit, if you go to sleep, if you at home and you have your house above you, if you have a ceiling above you, it's also enough at home or wherever.
I was wondering, 'cause, like some people wear like kippah all the time, some others don't.
And these days, the Orthodox community went into this whirlpool that they even sleep in it. So even the ceiling is not enough. So it's like it's not enough, more street. So it's like in the future we will just like nail it to there. I don't know what. But it used to be kippah and the Arabic word kafia, the same word. In Hebrew there's a P, in the Arabic there's no P, just an F. K-F-A-K-P-A-F-P, yeah, it's the same word. It's like cloth. And kippah just goes along with the European fashion, so it can fit underneath a hat.
Okay.
A European hat.
Okay.
Bullshit. So it's all bullshit. So that's why you say they are bluffing that it's not reform. It's just mimicking man. It's just feminism in a Jewish, I don't know, something. So it's like it's not good enough. It's not strong enough.
Yeah.
If you want, and until that, you can do this. I mean, if you got all the rights, but let's not joke around this whole, because this one is not a must either. So that's why I cannot really take them seriously.
So, like, do you think that like neolog with the like separation of men and women and like only men?
In the neo community, people sit separately, but very few synagogues have a curtain or a bars like we have.
Yeah.
Usually they sit separately, but in conservative synagogues, conservatives like the closest to us. Conservatives are called conservative because in the Anglo-Saxon countries they became conservative compared to the Reform.
Okay. Yeah.
So and they, because the Reform too much went into that they half of the liturgy was in German, and they were too much, and they changed the liturgy. They took out all the references to being a community or a nation or being or Jerusalem centered or redemption centered community. So it became one dimensional, or this world, and the local community. So and the local nation. So it's like much more pushed into that direction, that we are Moses believed Germans or Hungarians with the religion of persuasion of Moses or something like that. So it's like almost like we like Germans with a religion that is almost like Christianity without Jesus.
It's like saying, I'm like one person saying I'm Jewish, but I'm also like Hungarian, and the other person saying I'm Hungarian, but also have the faith of Judaism.
Yes. So it's very much so.
Yeah, but like just again off from that, like neolog have the like separation in some sense, and only like male rabbis, etc. Like, do you think is
yes, we all have male rabbis because but in the neolog community nothing has happened since the end of the First World War.
Yeah.
So we are thinking-wise, theologic-wise, we are at the same level or the same state where we were at the end of the First World War, when the Kingdom of Hungary was torn apart, and then racial laws came into to be. They were issued first time in Europe modern history. Numerous clauses came in, so very few people could apply to it, because all of a sudden, from after 100 years, after 100 years of following the French model, all of a sudden a new era began, where the new Hungarian elite, or the elite that was in the second line and then now became the first line, changed the Hungarian identity definition into the German one. So all of a sudden, all the Hungarian Jews became ethnically different and minority. But it was so cynical, because 2.5 million Hungarians were beyond the borders, because Hungary was torn apart. So Transylvania went to Romania, parts of almost all Slovakia became Czechoslovakia, and many parts of southern Hungary became part of Serbia. And all the Jews that were living there, are roughly 500,000. In the Hungarian propaganda was Hungarian. But when they were those lands were returned to Hungary, they were not Hungarians. So they were Hungarians until and only when it was good for that leadership. So this wasn't so.
So is it a growing religious stream nowadays? The neo community?
No, it's all a mishmash. You cannot really, because neo community haven't defined itself. Defined itself. There are people with lots of voice noise. They are loud, but they are themselves have their mishmash in their heads. So one of the rabbis is one of the most conservative. Sits in a synagogue where you have an organ, and has a PhD doctorate from America, and from an institution that have female rabbis. But here at home, he doesn't allow female rabbis to serve, but he accepts a award from female rabbis, and he parts of that group. So it's like very, very strange, and that's why we cannot identify ourselves, because the loudest people are the most conservative, and beyond them, the rest of the community do live or do think as American reforms. But we are more conservative than our teachers used to be, or in general. The neo rabbis these days are more conservative than the rabbis during the First World War, or the ones who were teaching at the seminary, and I can read their work. So I don't know what the average Joe was saying back then, but many writings of the rabbis 140, 130 years ago were more modern than those people who live today and preach today.
They were like, in terms of numbers, is that like
it's not growing. It's not growing. We have a big chunk of Jewish community that has Jewish background, either from both sides, but it's less and less. So it's the majority are half or third or quarter Jews. And there are us, and there are other communities from the outside, Israel, America, who try to reignite their Jewishness, reignite or re-educate them, what was lost or what was thrown away by their grandparents or great-grandparents. And many people approach them in a different mindset or with a different budget. So if you have good programs lots of food. More people will attend your venues.
Yeah,
But you never can be sure after you ran out of salmon and the roasted beef if it's really sunk in.
Like, are they coming for the food or are they coming
Yes,
for the actually?
yes. Or you think that you are a sucker and you give away free food, food for free. So, and of course, there are different. There's not just one type of. There's 3 or 4 types of Judaisms, but there are Jewish identity that you can confess to follow that are without religion.
Okay.
So you have these youth organizations that are almost all from Israel. Shomer HaTzair, Hanohar HaTzioni, the Bnei Akiva, BBYO, the Bnei Brit Youth Organization. So this one from America or from Anglo countries. But all these youth movements, you attend, you with them you go sometimes to synagogue, but sometimes you just light a candle or have a singing instead of a prayer, or prayer that is just singing. There's a prayer, but a shortened version, like 5 minutes, that is remembering the certain holiday, and then you move on and you have a program there. But all the and you have there this secular Jewish identity that you can live through all your life without be confronted with religion or with other dimensions of life, like a cultural Jew. So you read Jewish stuff or things that are written by anybody about Jewish subjects, or you read Jewish writers that write in certain style. And you attend these clubs, you buy these books, you go to these cafes that are attended by mostly Jews or whatever, and that's how you can make a completely separate life, that you live Jewishly, but you don't eat kosher, you don't keep anything, but still you have this bubble that lasts until you have a critical mass of partners. But this way of life many times don't have, because it doesn't follow anything. It ultimately, statistically, you can prove it leads to mixed marriages, and there's a certain type of mixed marriages. I mean, amount of mixed marriages that afterwards it will be very hard to draw back someone from there. That because I'm 1/8 or 1/10, 16% Jewish. But then what? So it's already gone. It's already far away from me. It's interesting, but it's not more than that. Just interesting. It's just a little bit of a okay. I have a little gypsy. I have a Chinese in it, and so I'm not Chinese, but I have 2% Chinese. So what can I do? You don't look it. I don't like Chinese food, so I don't care. But you see, so it's but more people follow the culture of Judaism. So if you have a march for the Holocaust victims or whatever, you get 2,000 attendees. You have a Friday night in all the synagogues, all of Hungary, you have a 1,500 attendees. There's this parliamentarian who said something anti-Semitic, so there's this huge petition collecting that you are protest again, completely go out and you protest, but you don't. I'm sometimes I'm bitterly say that if there were no anti-Semites, there will be much less Jews, because many times these Jews feel and act Jewish only when they meet or think they meet an anti-Semite.
Okay.
So Judaism in their life is just a protest, just a pushback. It's not a thing anymore. Just If you want to hurt Jews, I'm Jewish. But otherwise, give me my cheeseburger and let's go to a Buddhist shrine and whatever. So I don't really care about them just when the Jews are persecuted.
Yeah.
So then you protest, then you react, but it's just a reaction and only to negative things.
Okay.
Otherwise, you don't know Hebrew. You sometimes you are a polyglot. You have IQ of 150. You 5 languages, but you can't learn Hebrew. It just doesn't go into my head because you don't
really
care.
want to,
You don't really want it. Otherwise, 5 languages. You don't know Hebrew. Hebrew is much easier than other languages.
Yeah.
So it's like that.
Okay. Has it like another question that would be interesting, of course, like with the change of like government in like recent years, like has that have had an impact on Jewish life in Budapest, like the government in the recent years, compared to before?
It's a very complex question because the Jewish community in Central Europe, because of like democracy was never really took hold in Central Europe until the 1990s.
Yeah.
En masse. And in the 19th century and 20th century, after the empires fall apart, German Empire, Austro-Hungarian Empire, Russian Empire, all these countries were either fascistic or communist, and fascistic, nationalistic, and communist. And many times the Jews had much more. There were some decades when Jews were okay with the fascistic establishment. They were like tolerated and could make a living. But otherwise, after the Holocaust, it is like a watershed event in that way too. That the nationalism on anything, too much flags or too much nationalistic symbols, it brings back bad memories. Many times, symbols like the double cross of the first king, who was like an apostolic king of Hungary because he made the Hungarian tribes Christian, Stefan, or his flag, which is like a red white stripes flag, which was used by a Nazi party in the 50s. So it's like, it's like the Arrow Cross party. It many times it's like for many people it's like the swastika, but it also belongs to the Hungarian history.
Yeah.
So and many people in Hungary who after the fall of the regime and after the communism wanted to go back and reach back to historical symbolisms. They didn't understand why it is Nazi, because for them it's history and then the first king. But for the Jews it was just 1944.
Was that symbol used?
Yeah, used also by them.
Yeah.
So that's why it was like reused or abused, and that's why it was. So many Jews who stayed in Hungary or stayed in the Central Europe, but of course here stayed the biggest community because Budapest Jewry was mostly saved. Many Jews were rather loyal with the communist era or with the socialist government, and many made good careers. And when there was the change of the regime, they were also part of the elite or close to the elite. So within the Hungarian elite, political elite, Jews many times tended to vote for the center and for the left. So, and since in the last 15 years we have right-wing government, we have a tricky situation because Judaism was very strongly tilted to the right, to the left, and had many connections with the left. So it was also the Jewish community, and the head of the Jewish community was making policies like this. And of course, things that were on the right that were pretty much. I mean, there was some anti-Semitism too, but they were just things that were not so empathic or not so sensible or sensitive decisions, symbolic and not symbolic things, and Jews always were nervous about it and complaining about it. So there was this whole. So, for instance, the last big, two big trials, or not trials, but protests from the Jewish community came toward the government. Once, when they wanted to reopen a Holocaust museum, and it was designed by persona non grata historian, whom the Jewish community condemned earlier, so they didn't accept the whole museum subject or museum exposition exposition because of her personality, but I heard that the material rather was good, but because of her personality, it wasn't accepted. And 4 or 5 years before that, in 2011 and 12, there was this new monument that was erected in the middle of the town in the 5th district, so in the center of the governmental district, a monument for the Second World War
with the eagle,
with the eagle, which is like faking or bullshitting history, because it wasn't that simple and it wasn't that easy. It's like the angel Gabriel holding the crown, and the German eagle attacks it. And you know, Hungary is innocent.
Yeah.
Nowadays, the Hungarian government, they have some politicians which they are more. I'm attending each year at least 4 or 5 Holocaust memorials, because I have to do it. All the rabbis have to do it during the summer, in the months of the deportations, and I hear so many mea culpas and so many confessions, and taking responsibility from this right-wing government's representatives, that it's, I have never heard such flagellations. I don't know. So,
I know what you mean.
Yeah. So we are very much say things that we would like to hear, or Jews like to hear, and they are satisfied with it, because they don't want to push away the responsibility anymore. So they think differently what the statute shows.
But that does that like.
But I don't know if it's, words are
translated into policy.
Yeah.
Question, no?
No, they don't hurt. They don't hurt. They don't persecute the Jewish community at all.
Yeah.
But they change the atmosphere, the free atmosphere, where most Jews feel good. So they don't hurt Jews.
Yeah.
They also boast that they save Jews, because they didn't let in Muslim migrants, so the Jewish communities are safe. They are intolerant with Nazi concerts and Nazi happenings, but sometimes they do allow Danish, German, and Austrian neo-Nazis together in a breakout commemoration. So, if they do it just to let out some steam, if they do it just to steal away voters from the far right, I don't know. There are strange things. One thing for sure, this government is very much in support of Israel, but it's not. It's still, you can say that it still can be just a political maneuver and a political decision, and not a heartfelt judophilia. Judophilia, because Israel protects Hungary, that it's not anti-Semitic, and we Hungarian Jews are not allowed to say anything else.
Mhm.
So we are like blackmail from Israel. Shut up because it's good for us.
Okay.
And um, and the Hungarian government protects Israel in the EU and the UN.
Mhm. So it's like you don't say anything bad because Hungary protects Israel and that. Okay.
That's kind of a deal, Faustian,
Yeah.
Faustian deal.
Okay. But like, how did they change the atmosphere? Like you said, they changed the atmosphere.
Hungary was a lead of the pack in the 1990s in a way. Okay, the change of the regime wasn't so clear. Many communists became multimillionaires because they saved their influence and they bought up their own factories or whatever. So it was a nasty thing, but nobody died. So this for that. So nobody died. There was no revolution there in Romania, but there was not a clear cut separation or change like in East Germany that everybody could look at the Stasi thing. So that wasn't like that.
Yeah.
So it's like halfway.
Yeah. So no clear revolution, but on the other hand, like.
And no clear cut separation from the past.
Yeah.
So it's like a lukewarm change. That's and that's why it was for many times many years the left wing media and everyone stronger, and now it's the opposite around. So it's like I don't know. So it's like, come again. Now the right has an overreach and a dominance, but they don't fight with the local with the homegrown opposition. They fight with all these media outlets against Brussels. They claim so. It's like it's not the communication is not at all with Orban Viktor nowadays. Maybe it's true, maybe it's an exaggeration, but thinks of himself as a European leader. So his voice is like overgrow Hungary. So they won elections 4 times in a row. 10, 14, 18, 22.
Yeah.
And the last times more than 60%. So it's like he can think that he can. So the opposition is in a disarray, or they bore up, or they move from the back, and he goes against von der Leyen and other leaders. The Hungarian opposition is like this for him.
Okay. I mean, of course, they always say that there's like the lowest numbers of anti-Semitism and those sort of things.
Well, in Hungary?
Yeah.
Who said that?
Yeah, what?
Who said that?
You know, the government is always like saying, yeah.
No. Atrocities,
Yeah.
graffiti, or attack, or verbal abuse and physical harassment. It's the lowest in Europe, or one of the lowest in Europe. Anti-Semitism. Would you live? Would you trust? Would you like to be a husband?
I think the focus
neighbor of this. Do you think that the Jews are more loyal to each other? Do you think that they control the banking system, whatever? Then this number, I mean, according to just look at your cell phone. The ADL Anti-Defamation League made this survey for the whole globe, and I think within Europe, not the attacks, but the thinking, the anti-Semitic thinking or the conspiratorial thinking concerning the Jews. I think Spain, Poland, and Greece and Armenia is ahead of Hungary. and then comes Hungary, I think.
Yeah, well, I think the government is
The
very
least-
much focusing on the incidents and
Yes,
saying, oh, there's
yeah,
so
yeah.
many, so that's like
Yes. But every time I talk to other intellectuals, for instance, priests and ministers, I mean Christian church ministers, when I was talking with them in a roundtable discourse, that if they use, like in television, many times use coded language, like the background people or people controlling secretly the world,
yeah, okay.
or the bankers, or New York, or Brussels, it many times sounds like those people who think Jews behind it. Other times they say that they are world elites, and among them there are Jews, but there are Chinese, but many Americans and Germans and English billionaires or trillionaires who control, manipulate everything.
Yeah.
The BlackRock customers, but conspiracy theories, if you scratch the surface, sadly, many times they are thinking Jews. Also, Jews controlling this, Jews controlling that. It's very strong in Hungary as well. But I think the ideal numbers are also very bit tricky because I know that anti-Semitic university. I saw a documentary about Ukraine. How many neo-Nazis are there? What kind of universities are there? What they teach there? I mean, they teach Mein Kampf also as a truth, or not Mein Kampf, the Elders of Zion. This conspiracy. Completely anti-Semitic books and teachers and teachings. And when the war started, I saw their numbers like 4% anti-Semitic in the Ukraine, and it used to be much higher, but for the war, it was lowered.
Okay.
Since since you have to love the Ukraine, the whole situation where the Russians are the bad guys through and through, and the West has done nothing wrong. So the Russians are acting and not reacting. So to something, that's what I mean. I wanted to mention this other thing about this ADL findings, that in Germany, in Europe, the lowest numbers were taken from England, Denmark, Holland, Sweden, and the Czech Republic.
Interesting.
These are the lowest numbers.
Yeah.
France was lower or maybe higher than Germany, but since I remember something about this number, like Hungary is 47, 30 France, and 25 Germany, and 4 is Denmark. So it's like very, very low. So it was very, very low. And of course, with the migration, with the Israeli Arab or Muslim Jewish conflict, the local Muslim population will be loyal, will be sympathetic to the Muslim side, the Arab side. It doesn't matter because the Jews are winning, but they are like weaker, or how they can manipulate America, so they will believe all the conspiracy theories threefold than in Europe. So it's very strong in the Muslim world, because the Islam believes that it became as the final truth to rule the earth. And they did rule for almost 1,000 years. They did dominate for 1,000 years. They almost reached Paris, and the next time they almost reached Vienna. And they conquered all the ancient civilizations, from Persia till India, till Egypt. They had it all. And when the Mongols almost destroyed their hearts on their way back to Mongolia, they all converted to Islam. So even they conquered their hearts, their killers' hearts. So Islam had a very strong 800 years, and then they've fallen back. And the Islam thinking, the theology is not really ready for it. That they're not the leaders,
Okay.
and they're in their thinking. When their experience for 1,000 years was that the Christians are the major enemies and maybe the Chinese or the Mongols, but the Jews are they're like this funny little people who are like cursed by everybody and persecuted everywhere, and they are really funny with all their strict laws. And they are like cursed by, I mean, their strict kosherness is also strict, cursed by God. It's in the Surah 5, I think, in the Quran, the table Surah, the Surah called table. This writes about the kosher laws, why the Jews have so many laws. So they have this impression of the Jews from the religion and from experience, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, despite of experience, against historical logic, they start to dominate and kick everybody's ass, and it's out of the order. So it's because we follow God, and this is hurting Islam, and it's so unnatural that this happens that it's satanic.
Okay.
Or conspiracies, and they manipulate. So they give much more credence to the elders of Zion, or things like that.
Because it doesn't really fit in the way like they would.
But it explains everything.
Yeah.
How can it be? Not our backwardness, but how can they force America or make America do it what it does, or support them, even though that America's interest is the opposite? It's worth much more, but would be much more to support the Arabs.
But like with the knowledge, you said that there's like with the ADL study that there's like lots of people that think in anti-Semitic, not like ways or like think anti-Semitic things. Like, does that do something with you? Like, when you know that there's so many people that are actually in their thinking anti-Semitic, does that do something with you, or like does it move you, or when like you go outside the street, do you like?
Well, no, I don't really feel. I've been screamed at before once or twice in my life. I was walking in a keep on the streets or whatever, but it's really that benign.
Okay.
I had one of my far away acquaintance was kicked and hurt a little bit, and for a couple of streets away once, and his hand was broken, but otherwise a swastika here, graffiti or whatever by 16-year-old youth or whatever, or a Sieg Heil with some drunken English tourist or Hungarian teenagers, whatever. So it happens. The problem is when you have neo-Nazis training in a forest with weapons. That starts.
So like for you, it's more the act, like when it goes into serious action.
Yes,
that's where it's
of course, but the radicalization starts with words and with concerts and with all kinds of other things. But so far in Europe in the last 20 years, most Jews were killed by Muslims, radicals. In America, most Jews were killed by neo-Nazis. So in America, I think, because of so many guns are on the streets, and so there are so many cuckoo people with drugs or without drugs. They are cuckoo. Probably there are bigger chance to be shot because you are Jewish, because you're wearing Jewish things and you are like identifiable than here. So to be heard, or to be heard, and not just by the Nazis, by blacks in New York. In 2 or 3 years ago, there was this competitions on the internet who can hit by one blow somebody's unconscious, and and then many times they went on Jews in New York. Of course, the blacks because of Louis Farrakhan too. He's a Nation of Islam leader. It's all kinds of funny terms that normal Muslims don't believe. But they started this whole thing that the Jews are very much responsible, or more Jews had black slaves in the South than others, or they are the real authentic Jews, and other Jews are just imposters, and they are the black Jews are the Jews. The Egyptians were also Jews. And the Jews were also black. So the Egyptians were also black, and the Jews were also black. So everybody is black. Like in a new Netflix movie, like everybody's like compensating, and everybody's black. So so that's why they are mad so many times. I mean, there's this one a couple of years ago. There was this Facebook short video. I thought on Facebook. The crazy black woman starts to harass a father and a Jewish father and a Jewish child on the metro, and a Muslim woman stops them. So a lot of Americans are very dangerous. I think in a certain way, it's a nice place. It's a many times a land of opportunities, but in other ways it's very very dangerous, and I'm kind of So I don't know if try to be jealous not living there, or to thank God to not living there. I don't know.
It's probably moments where moments.
Moments.
Yeah.
Any more questions? We have 2 more.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, we still have time.
Until when do you have time?
3.
Okay. One topic is, of course, like which I've heard quite a lot about from other people, is like the growth, like Chabad movement here in Hungary. It's just like probably would be interesting, like how you view it. It is probably quite I don't know. It's a good question. A good question.
Loaded question. Loaded answer.
Yeah.
What I think about Chabad? Chabad. First, let's say the positive.
Yeah, I'm objective in this. I'm just like asking people about it.
Well, every Chassid Rebbe, because they are Chassid movement among the many Chassids, many Chassid Rebbes have a followership. They worship them. They think they're like living saints. And but they are many times very wise people. Sometimes if the son inherits the father and he's not so talented, then it's not so okay. But otherwise, it's usually it was better inheritance than many times they were managed better. Who inherits who than many kingdoms in Europe. But still, it's like that. So maybe sometimes the daughter's husband earns the crown and not the straight lineage down from a father. So the Chabad movement, or the Lubavitch movement, its first Rebbe was one of the most intellectual Hasid at the beginning of the Hasidic movement.
Okay.
He wrote the first most important or Hasidic book at the beginning of the movement at the end of the 18th century. This book is called Tanya, and it influenced other Hasid groups, and other Hasid rabbis also wrote their stuff just afterwards. So he's like a founding figure, and he also kind of some religious scholars, not religious, but religion scholars that deal with religion say that very easily Hasidism could have broken away from Judaism, but he kind of anchored it in it with this work. He has one of the most beautiful. He composed one of the most beautiful Hasidic songs that melts your heart.
Okay.
And there were bigger Hasidic movements, but since these things that I told you earlier, it's kind of on the map. So they put Lubavitch on the map, undeniably. They had 7 generations of rabbis. The last one died without an heir, and he was considered by many of his followers a messiah. So now they wait for his return.
Okay.
Just like Jesus' return, just like the Shia wait for the Mahdi return from the hidden Imam.
Yeah.
The same. He made this movement a global movement, the seventh one. The seventh one that was born in 1903, grew up in Belarus, Little Poland, but also studied in Berlin or in some other big German town at the university. I think electrical engineering studied, but also studied in Paris. So in the 30s, he moved around Central Europe and Western Europe, and he kind of slipped out of Europe at the last moment. And in 1952 or 53, he earned or he inherited the throne and began this movement that became so influential that even in his life in 1978, so he died 16 years later, the American Education Day was named or after him, or it was replaced purposely to honor him on his birthday, even in his life. You know, days are named after people or after they died, like John F. Kennedy Day, Martin Luther King Day. But it was named after him before he died, 16 years before he died. And back then, America was a smaller country than today. Today it's like there are 336 million. Back then it was maybe 210 million people. 50 years ago, America was 100 million smaller. But I'm saying that the Jewish community inside of it was like 5 million, but this Hasidic or the Orthodox community was the smallest in it, and it's just one branch of the Orthodox community. So I think the Chabad movement back then comprised of 80, 100,000 people, and they had this lobby power to convince the Carter administration, which was like all the Jews vote Democrats except 20%, the very conservative ones. They many times tend toward, especially in the last 30 years since the millennium, they tend to vote since Clinton or since Bush, they tend to vote for Republican.
Okay.
Before that, I don't know how was it, but still, they, the Democrats and their surroundings always forced, separation of church and state, and bringing out the prayer from the classroom and the swearing oath to the flag. There was this fascistic kind of saying, or like this, or like this. They were swearing oath to the flag. So there are pictures that they do the salute, the Roman salute, not the salute, Roman salute. Fascistic salute. So they try to bring it out from the classroom, but he, for instance, pushed in the 60s to leave it inside, or at least a moment of silence or something like that. So he was always against the mainstream of liberal Judaism, even in the 60s and 70s. And in the 80s, when the Reagan administration came, when in Israel Likud came, by the way, the Likud's founding document that was that came out when the party was founded. It came from the revisionist party, which the revisionist party from back since Jabotinsky wanted also Jordan to be part of Israel, not just Israel. So they didn't want to allow any land to be given back. They wanted more. So from the river to the sea is written into the Likud founding paper as well. So it's not just a Palestinian all or nothing kind of a chant. It's the Jewish Israeli right wings.
Interesting.
The mirror of it. You see that map there, back there? Yeah. Do you see on it any resemblance of the Palestinian Authorities map? Is it shown? It is there since 1993. So it's like 30 years ago. But it doesn't show. And on Palestinian map, Israel is not shown. So it's like, So what are you complaining about? So can any Likudnik, without cynicism, say that, oh, how come you're saying this? You say that we should be destroyed. We sing the same, that you're not allowed to anything on that place, and you better leave.
Yeah.
So from the 80s, their influence. So his birthday became National Education Day, but from the 80s when Likud won, 77 Likud won, but in the 80s was about Thatcher, Reagan, and in Israel the crisis in Lebanon because Israel started to occupy Lebanon, but the Likud occupied Lebanon, so I'm not going to Israeli politics now, but I'm just saying that Chabad, it was a very good time for Chabad.
Okay.
Netanyahu became the youngest UN envoy for Israel. Netanyahu was many times with the Rebbe. All the Likud members regularly visited the Rebbe. Even Yitzhak Rabin from the left visited the Rebbe. So the Rebbe never visited Israel, but all the Israeli leaders visited the Rebbe. The Rebbe around Chabad, by the way, all these Kahanist Jewish terrorist groups are also linked. Not to the Rebbe per se, but to this very strong Jewish identity that we want to revenge and we will never be subject to any persecution again. You want to fuck us, we will fuck you. This is the mentality. And they did blow up officers. They killed, by the way, Jewish secretary that opened the letter bomb. So Kahan had to leave America. FBI made him leave, and he made Aliyah to Israel. And in Israel, he became something. But he was never condemned, and always was just praised by Chabad. So Chabad is a very tricky. In a way, you can, if you look at it from far away, it's very romantic, very nice because you have all this music and all this talent and also they started because the last rabbi was a Western European university educated, world traveled rabbi with scientific mind in America, in the strongest nation on earth. So much more experienced than all the rest of the Hasidic rabbis within America in the 50s when America was producing half of the world's GDP. Yeah. So it's like golden opportunity, the right man at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
But the problem starts with the rottenness starts from the head. So in the Tanya, in the book of Tanya, and in general in the Luriani Kabbalah in the late Middle Ages, it came this whole new notion of, from the Zohar, this whole new notion of interpretation of what's the Jew and what is he about, what is he for here, why are we here, what are we for? And then this came that the Jew is the part of God itself. So the Jews have this special soul that is only from the particle of God. And the Gentiles are like demons. So, so this attitude sounds cruel, sounds unjust, truly unjust. I don't believe it. I mean, it's nonsense. I always say to all the Hasid, these Lubavitchers, that if this was the last Judaism that remained on earth, I would be a Muslim. Because I'm a monotheistic, and I think it's with all due respect that, but it's not resembles anything from Torah, but. But I know why it was developed and when it was developed and what it was for, because it was a reaction. This theology, this very cruel like caste system like thinking is about the high Middle Ages when the Jesuit order and everybody was after the Jews and the Jewish number went down. I told you that was the lowest number of Jews.
Yeah.
In the Roman Empire during the time of Jesus, there were 7 million Jews around the world. Many Jews who converted to Judaism, but then it went down to 1 million around the expulsion of Jews from Spain.
Yeah.
Then it started to grow. So, but this thinking was born back then when it was the lowest, and it wanted to save Jews by giving them hope and ego that competes with all the armies of the Christians, all the armies and flotillas of the Muslims, all the big minarets and cathedrals. Mm-hmm. Your ego will be higher than the cathedral. Okay. So, what do you want? Do you want to convert to Christianity? You are the basis of the universe.
Okay.
So it's on your shoulder. Mm. You hear that beautiful sound from the synagogue, that church? It's nothing. Your one keeping of one mitzvah is more than all the Christianity, all the prayers, all day, everywhere, from Japan till America, because you have the soul of God, or part of God in you. Yeah. And if somebody wants to convert to Judaism, that's the tricky part.
Yeah,
and it's interesting for us for here now in this age, because many people want to convert, because the mixed marriages and all the rest is here on us. So it's a very boiling question.
Yeah.
So their answer is sweet but horrible. Sweet if you listen and you don't understand, just listen. Just hear it, but you don't goes inside you. Because they say, if you want to convert, it seems that you probably were Jews all the way. Your conversion is just a formal thing that the worldly Jewish community accepts you into its fold. But otherwise, you were always a Jew. You are a spirit. You're a spark. You're a part of God that fell on the wrong side of the fence in a Christian or in a non-Jewish family by mistake, by accident. But now because the Jewish soul yearns its other souls, like a magnet, it flows back into place, into its own fold, its original fold, and that's why you convert, because you belong here all the time. It sounds very sweet, but in another way, it also means that you cannot change and they cannot change. The rest of the nations, the rest of the mass of the people are all like from a different source, not from God, from the other side, from a black source or a dirty or not so high, lofty source. So they're unchangeable, and you just fall there. You came back where you always belong. You can't change. You can't become them, and they cannot become us.
They-
So it's like the worst nationalistic bullshit, but it's not originated not from monkeys and not from the evolution, but from God, the just.
But if they want to convert, I mean, that's
This,
the same.
but it can never happen. It's like that. So it's like we have our own role in their history, and they have their own role. They can become better than now and fulfill their own role, but they never can become us.
Okay.
By the way, they don't want to become us. So this system always can rely on that they don't want to become Jewish. So you can always like be happy with your small numbers and this elite kind of small things. This thing was developed when the Judaism was the smallest numbers. Don't forget, and they want to keep in the rest, and they wanted to give them something, an ego boost that will keep them in. And it worked. But nowadays, it's kind of ugly and it works the other way around. Or it's in Israel or in other places when an ethno, you're thinking this like in the ethno state, it's very cruel and very, 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 not far right, it's over the far right. So it's like very right wing. So it's the ego starts with self-righteousness and with 5, 6, wars behind you, it gives you an ego of a maniac. And it's dangerous because it's not true. Not the theology is not true. The way they see history, it's false, and also the help was coming from non-Jewish sources as well. America, France, England, whatever, support, Germany, all the submarines are from Germany. The composition that Adenauer made with Ben Gurion helped the Israeli economy in the 50s. I don't know how many billions of Deutschmark was paid. So it's like, come on, it's not a miracle. You can an accountant can show you how it worked all the time. But these fanatics see the world differently. I don't care how they see. I just don't want to get close to the atom bombs button because they are dangerous. They are truly dangerous people. Smotrich and Ben Gvir, 2 ministers in today's Netanyahu's government, were not allowed to join the army. Because they were Jewish terrorists.
Okay.
In their youth.
Yeah. So because of this thinking of like we are unchangeably chosen and like part of God, and they are just something else. Like because of this, they're dangerous, or like
no. I said this theology plus all the success that they have so far.
Okay. Yeah.
So they think that all this success are like confirmed because it's a confirmation from high above, from God, that you are on the right side of history, and then he's supporting you.
Yeah.
But it's an outside help, and it's a worldly help. But of course, they can still explain that yes, God or some angel convinced the U.S. president or whatever. But still, I don't care. I don't care what they say to themselves or what they dream.
Yeah.
They just have to be far away from mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction.
So usually a good thing.
So I think that they could not hold back as long as Kim Jong Un holds back. So he's crazy, but probably they are more crazy. And they have this far right Otzma Yehudit, Jewish Strength Party, a fascist party, in two or three elections away before, I read about this article, and then in Chabad circles, they said that not to waste your votes on small parties. In Israel, there are a lot of small parties. Usually, in religious communities, they don't have to say never what to vote because everything is geared toward one particular party, which is good for the leader or the leaders, and you know it from childhood. Yeah. It is the same party, and it's always kind of hinted there. Maybe in a community so wide as the Chabad community, maybe it's a little bit wider. It's not one party, maybe two or three parties, but there were new parties too that were very hostile and very stingy and very militaristic. But Netanyahu was faring not good, so they said not to waste money, vote on small parties, but on sure candidates. This is a straight way thinking that two parties, or Likud or something on the right that can go together with Likud. Mm-hmm. And even so that it was given for many channels that you have to vote a certain way. In Kfar Chabad, in their village, they have a village that they own, they established and they run, and the other parts of towns where they are majority, this fascistic party, which is like very extreme, AfD, compared to them, is like a liberal party. Okay. And this party, on a national average, got 1.5% in Israel, all of Israel. But in their constituency or in their area, it was 25%. So they have this underbelly, this very ugly or not sympathetic part that they don't put out into the window, into the foreplay, the display. So it's like I'm saying that they are a bit dishonest. This is the shortest way to say. If you are macho, and if you're still strong, say it straight away what you think. Otherwise, you are just like a weasel. Yeah. Because you say all kind of things, you manipulate, and then you have a secret agenda, or they will say later when I already convinced you. But Baruch Goldstein, the one who killed 29 people in Hebron, was also close to Chabad. The rabbi who wrote King's Torah, a book that halachically shows that religious halakha is religious law. So religious law-wise shows how and why collateral damage is allowed, or even more. You're allowed to kill children if you suppose that they will become enemy adults in their adult life. That is killed like this way. And it was written by one of the two writers. One of the writers is Chabad, and the yeshiva where it was written is run by a Chabad rabbi. So it's crazy that they have also this side. In one side, they discovered Matisyahu, the rapper Matisyahu, all these Jewish talents, rappers and musicians. They have this, in Hollywood they are like in 6 movies, 10 movies they are mentioned. You know what kind of PR is that when you are people walk around and it's Chabad. In Friends, the sitcom Friends. Yeah. So this was Joey. What are you watching? Asked Ross. Yeah. Oh, it's Chabad again. Okay. Or there's Chabad Teleton, this fundraising event, and all the staff from Friends comes up and says, give money to Chabad, give charity to Chabad. And Bill Clinton comes in, and this Philo-Semite or this Jew singer or politician or actor comes in, sings something in Yiddish, makes a joke, says to give money, and they it's a and next to Trump there is a Chabad rabbi. Next to Putin there is a Chabad rabbi. When on the eve of the elections in 2016 and also in 2020, Ivanka Trump went to pray at the gravesite of the Lubavitch Rebbe. So it's I could have tell you thousands of more examples, but Chabad is a community that also came here, just like came to many other places, and they are talented. They are believe in what they think. If you were an intellectual Jew who is being helped by them, usually Jews never ask, "Oh, it's free," but they never ask, "Why do you help?" Cui bono? Cui bono? Why do you help? Is it good for you? Okay, why is it good for you? Why is it good for you? What do you think about me? Would you help me if I were a liberal Jew? Would you help me if I were a non-Jew? Would you support whatever? But straight away you would find out that red flags, red flags. But many people that they're kind because they think or they know they hope that you have that soul. But they don't say straight away what they think, and they always act differently when they are a minority and when they are majority. Like they're like the Muslim Brotherhood. We can have elections once, then we control.
I mean, they do quite a lot in Hungary as well, right?
In Hungary, they do a lot of things everywhere. Everywhere they have a separate institute, and they are in competition with everybody. So, in France, in England, in Germany, they don't try to integrate into the normal mainstream Orthodox community or Orthodox communities. They straight away open up a new competing office that deals separately with the government. So they're not just against reform, progressive, neolog, whatever, that they think they're too liberal or too relaxed with the approach to halakha, but because they're on a mission. They also compete with the mainstream Orthodox that they confess to be on the same page with them. They are a little bit like the Jesuits in the 16th century. So there's this joke about the Jesuits that some Christian, some Catholics who died go up to heaven, and they meet with Saint Peter, and they walk around in heaven, and Peter shows them around over here, this and this and that, there is this and that, resides that, and now please be quiet and let's walk by this whole building here, and they say, okay, why should we be so quiet now? Because here are Jesuits and they think that only they are here. So.
That's very good.
They are the only ones here. So this is not their theology is not like this, but as they manipulate their environment, or how they goes into politics and manipulate politics, and by the way, they're always useful for the government. And for instance, a government like the Hungarian government loves a Jew like them, because they have cattle on their farm, so they are right wing, They are never left wing. They don't have a left arm. They have just right arm. They don't left bones. They don't have anything left in them. Or they believe in oligarchy. They believe in kingdom. I mean, their rabbi is a king. It works like and it's not like a Western king, constitutional king. It's like a Eastern, like a Russian Tsar or a Chinese emperor. So it's like a guru king and godly king. And any times that the Hungarian average Jew like gets heart attack because it's too much nationalism that comes out of the government. It was pretty true from 2010 till 18, and then it get toned down. As I told you that now they speak like nobody ever before in Hungary. So anytime that the Jewish community said, "Oh, it's too much, it's anti-Semitic," it sounds like it's in the 30s. It sounds awful. Then they always jumped out and said, no, it's not anti-Semitic. We confirm, we are the real Jews. Just look at us. I look like a cartoon. It's not anti-Semitic. So when Soros in Hungarian, Soros' face was put on the tram station, on a tram.
Yeah.
So they had to walk on it. Jewish banker. It's like a conspiracy par excellence. You have 1 million people each morning walked on his face. I can understand that the Hungarian government fights with the NGOs and everybody else who is like forces migration or whatever. I understand this fight, but to push it only on Soros and a Jewish banker will be the face of the conspiracy against Hungary.
Yeah.
It's like playing with fire and playing with old demons that you want to like call out from the bottle. And everybody in Hungary and also outside was also Iranians was saying, "Come on, stop it!" And they came out and said, "No, it's by the way, it's not anti-Semitic." But by the way, you have to also know that they are very, very close to the Israel Likud, and the Likud hates Soros because also in Israel he pushes more liberal agenda, and the Palestinians helps the Palestinians, so it's like enemy number one.
It's interlinked.
Interlinked. And also Israel prepared all the legal and practical background for forced African expulsion or migration expulsion. So everything is already tried out and legally substituted or underlined by Israel in the 2010s. So and if the Jews can do it, and it's reasonable and it's legal, why can't we do it? I mean, if Israel does it, so it's very much in the world of Eastern European, Central European chauvinistic governments find a good partner in Israel.
Yeah.
Not so long ago, they also Israel helped to with its top-notch surveillance phone tapping with the program. So it's like that. So the free world gave birth to Israel, and now Israel, because it's its interest, now helps kill the free world. It's like a circle.
Yeah.
It's never ending. Another one, last one.
Yeah, just I mean, it can be brief. It doesn't have to be very elaborate. And thank you, by the way, for all the questions so far, and especially the difficult big one just now. Can you just some facts or just something about the synagogue here?
Synagogue was built in 1896 for the millennium, for the 1000th anniversary of the Hungarian tribes who arrived to Hungary. The Hungarian Kingdom was founded in 1000, so they came a little bit before. The synagogue had 5 rabbis or 5 leaders, 4 rabbis and a counselor who was acting like a rabbi, but he wasn't a rabbi. In the last 120 years, I have been serving here alone for almost 9 years.
You have the cantor or the
Anatoly on the cantor.
Yeah.
The cantor, I brought him in here in 2019.
okay.
The synagogue was built after the cooling down of the liberal spirit in Hungary, so it's rather built in a more conservative way because the assimilistic aspect of synagogue building was not pushed in this synagogue. So the bima, the Torah reading table, is in the middle. We have a mechitza, a separating wall between the sexes.
Yeah.
And it has been, since I've been here attending